Welcome to the deep dive. We take complex information, pull it apart, and basically give you the essentials.
Yep, making it efficient and hopefully enjoyable to get the key info.
So today we're digging into the Triangle Small Area Plan. This was adopted, what, back in October 2021?
That's the one. We've got the actual plan document right here.
Okay.
And the mission, really, is to slice through it and give you a clear view of the triangle area. You know, what's going on now, its past, and what this plan envisions for the future.
Trying to pull out those nuggets that, really stick with you. Any surprising facts we might uncover?
Exactly. So the Triangle Small Area Plan, fundamentally, it's Prince William County's roadmap for developing this specific area.
Right.
The main idea is to take it from what it is now, which is, well, we'll get into the details, but to evolve it into a more dynamic, mixed-use community.
Okay, mixed use, live, work, play, that kind of thing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Making it a place where those things are integrated, not totally separate. And a big driver for this is making Triangle more attractive, both for people to live in and, crucially, for businesses that serve Marine Corps Base Quantico nearby.
Ah, the Quantico connection. Makes sense. So this plan, it must have sections, right? How is it structured to achieve this?
It does. It's organized around 8 main parts. There's the overall vision and thematic principles, kind of the guiding philosophy.
Yeah.
Then place types, which defines the character and land use for different spots. Mobility, obviously, is all about transportation roads, walking, biking, transit.
Mm-hmm.
Green infrastructure, that's your parks. Open spaces, natural features. A cultural resources plan looking at the history. An economic development plan for jobs and businesses.
Okay.
Level of service, which covers infrastructure needs, schools, utilities, things like that. And finally, an implementation matrix, which is basically the how-to guide with timelines.
That's pretty comprehensive.
It is. And interestingly, before they jump into all the future stuff, they do a pretty deep dive themselves into the existing conditions. What's there now, and how did it get this way?
Right, you need that baseline. So before we picture this future triangle, we need to understand today's triangle and its backstory. The plan goes into the history, you said.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. If you go way, way back, pre-contact period, there's archaeological evidence of Native American activity. We're talking archaic period, like 8,500 to 3,200 years ago.
Wow.
Mostly short-term camps, tool-making sites, that sort of thing, mainly along Broad Run. Unfortunately, 20th century sod farming damaged a lot of those sites.
That's a shame.
It is. They think there was likely woodland period presence too, but no specific sites found yet. And then, of course, the Albany Treaty in 1722 and later forced removals really changed everything for the Native American populations.
Okay, and then European settlement starts.
Exactly. Settlement to society, roughly 1650, 1750.
Mm.
Prince William County gets formed in 1730. People settled along the Potomac and the creeks feeding into it. Tobacco was king. Dumfries, just north of Triangle, started growing that. Then you shift into the next period, say 1750 to 1860, colony to nation to antebellum.
Your changes then.
Farming diversifies. Less tobacco, more wheat, corn, livestock. Roads start developing more formally. You get things like Milford Mill popping up on Broad Run.
A local landmark.
Yeah. And you also had Quaker migrants coming in, bringing different farming techniques, often using fewer enslaved people, which was a notable shift.
And the Civil War. Big impact.
Absolutely. 1861 to 65. Kings Highway Route 1 today was a major artery for troop movements. Both Union and Confederate pickets were around. Confederate cavalry raids happened. There were even Texas camps supporting the Cockpit Point Battery nearby.
So a lot of activity. What about after the war, Reconstruction, and heading into the 20th century?
Things went back towards agriculture mostly. Big plantations got broken up, subdivided. Dairy farming really took off. This area became part of the Washington milkshed supplying the capital.
Milkshed, interesting term.
Isn't it? And maps from the early 1900s confirm it was still very much farmland. Milford Mill kept running.
Okay, leading us closer to modern times. World wars.
Yeah, WWI through WWII, 1917 to 45. Still largely agriculture and timber. Grist mills, lumber mills were active. There was a cabin branch mine nearby too.
Right.
But the huge, game-changing event was in 1917. The Marine Corps bought a massive amount of land.
For Quantico.
Exactly. The creation of Marine Corps Base Quantico. That fundamentally altered the area's trajectory, its economy, everything. And it's still central to the plan today.
Makes sense.
Also in the 30s, Prince William Forest Park was established, taking over some of that former mine and farmland.
And then post-WWIR, suburban boom.
Well, yes and no. Northern Virginia definitely boomed after the war, but Triangle didn't feel that suburban pressure quite as intensely as areas, say, closer to D.C.
Yeah.
More recently, the widening of Route 1 back in 2015 that caused some disruption, demolished some buildings.
I remember that.
But it also sort of sparked this idea of a comeback, this Potomac Defense Corridor concept,
Yeah.
leveraging that Quantico proximity.
And the name triangle, where did that come from?
It's pretty literal, actually. Early 20th century, a guy named J. Amadon built a commercial building, an auto garage, that was triangular shaped, right at the junction of Old Route 1 and Joplin Road.
Huh. So the name stuck from a building.
Yep, the whole identity tied to that specific spot.
Okay, that's a fantastic historical overview. So bringing us to the now described in the plan, around 2020, how is the land actually used? What's the breakdown?
Right. As of February 2020, the biggest chunk was residential, about 34%. What's interesting is there's still a fair amount of undeveloped land, too.
Potential there.
Definitely. Then you've got public right-of-way, roads and such. Recreational land, including Fuller Heights Park, is around 11%. Commercial is about 8%.
What kind of commercial?
It's a mix. The United Mine Workers HQ is there, a Ramada Hotel, some auto body shops, a florist barbecue place, a couple 7-Elevens, Dollar General. But notably, no full-size grocery store right in Triangle.
That's a gap.
It is.
Yeah.
Then institutional uses, schools, post office, churches make up 7%, and industrial is tiny, just 1%. So it really paints that picture of being primarily residential with other uses scattered around.
Okay. And how's it all zoned? Any special areas or overlays we should know about?
Yeah, zoning's varied. There's a section between Old Triangle Road, Woodlake Road, and Route 1 that's designated as a hub zone.
Hub zone. What's that mean?
It gives businesses located there a preference for federal contracts. So it's an economic development tool, basically. Then along the southern edge and in the middle parts, some parcels are under a redevelopment overlay. Think of that as flagging areas for potential change, maybe more intense development than standard zoning allows. There are also 2 historic sensitivity area overlays on the west side, reflecting that history we talked about. Significant chunks are protected open space. And Little Freak is important. It's in the Chesapeake Bay Resource Protection Area, or RPA.
Meaning more regulations.
Right, to protect water quality. And parts are also in the FEMA 100-year floodplain, which impacts building. Plus, when the plan was written, there were already 7 major zoning cases underway, mostly residential projects, so change was already happening.
Things like townhomes, single-family developments.
Exactly. Townhomes near the northwestern corner, some single-family along Route 1 and across from it, the Breedy's Hill development, plus a couple of commercial projects near Quantico Gateway Drive.
Okay, so land use, zoning. Well, what about getting around? Mobility. How easy is it to walk, bike, drive, use transit in Triangle right now?
That's identified as a major challenge.
Yeah.
West of Route 1, the local roads, well, they aren't very connected. Lots of cul-de-sacs, not great for walking or biking efficiently.
Dead ends everywhere.
Pretty much. And there's a big imbalance in jobs versus residents. Way more people commute out of Triangle for work than commute in. Like in 2018, only about 30 residents actually worked in Triangle, even though there were over 450 jobs there and 3,800 residents.
Wow, that's stark.
It is. Sidewalks are pretty limited too, especially in the older neighborhoods and east of Route 1. And crossing Route 1 on foot, not easy.
It's a busy road.
Very. There are crossings at Joplin Road and Squire Lane, but the distance between them is really long, much longer than recommended guidelines. Makes it tough, maybe unsafe. And bike infrastructure. Not really connected. You pretty much need a car.
So car dependent, largely. What
Yeah.
about the natural environment? Boundaries, water, land cover?
Environmentally, you've got I-95 on one side, Dumfries Town, some lower density housing, and then MCV Quantico bordering it. Big influences. All the water drains towards the Occoquan and Potomac rivers, eventually hitting the Chesapeake Bay. So it's part of that big watershed.
Land cover breakdown.
It's roughly 38% forested, about 36% non-forest, and then over 26% impervious roads, buildings, pavement. RPAs make up 8%, floodplains about 6%.
And the terrain, soils?
Soils are mostly sandy or loamy, pretty permeable, but also kind of erodible. Topography generally slopes down from the higher ground between Route 1 and I-95 towards Route 1 and Little Creek. There's an open space corridor on the west side, and the east side tends to have more tree cover overall.
Okay. And with all that history, cultural resources must be present. What did the plan find?
Definitely. They noted 59 architectural resources nearby, mostly along Route 1, 8 archaeological sites, and 14 artifact locations identified, giving those glimpses into the past.
Right.
We mentioned the historic sensitivity overlays on the west. There are also specific zones flagged as high sensitivity for prehistoric and historic finds in the north and southeast corners.
Places to be careful during development.
Exactly. And there's the tangible reminder, the Amadon-Lunsford Civil War era cemetery. Plus, two major heritage corridors run through: the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail and the Washington-Rochambeau National Historic Trail.
Lots of layers there. Okay, last piece of the now puzzle.
Yeah.
The community itself. What did the indicators show about people, the economy, income, housing, jobs?
So residentially, compared to Prince William County overall, Triangle has a lower median household income and lower median home values. Also a higher percentage living below the poverty level and more renters than homeowners. Demographically, it's actually more racially and ethnically diverse than the county average, though the percentage of Hispanic residents is lower.
Interesting mix. What about the commercial side?
Not much new construction office or retail in the years leading up to the plan, like 2014, 2019. Office vacancy rates were quite high. Rents weren't climbing much. Retail vacancy was lower. Rents moderate. But multifamily rentals and home sales seemed relatively strong.
Okay. And jobs. What sectors dominate? How do people commute?
The biggest share of residents work in services, then public administration, then retail. Compared to the county, Triangle folks are overrepresented in retail, finance, insurance, real estate. Most drive alone to work.
Like you said, car dependent.
Yeah, very low public transit use. Most residents work either within Prince William County or somewhere else in Virginia. Within Triangle itself, most of the jobs are office-based. But projections show significant potential growth in retail and office jobs down the line.
And schools.
2 public schools, right, adjacent to the study area.
Okay, wow. That paints a really detailed picture of Triangle as it stood, its history, land, people, challenges. So now, the future. What's the big vision in this small area plan? What's it driving towards?
The big picture vision is transforming Triangle into a place that's vibrant, sustainable, and crucially interconnected.
Right.
And that vision gets broken down into specific goals, things like create lively, mixed-use activity centers, improve connectivity, making it easier and safer for pedestrians, cyclists, transit users.
Less car-centric.
Exactly. Preserve and enhance the green stuff, parks, open space, natural areas. Enhance existing neighborhoods, but also add more diverse housing options. And really emphasize Triangle's role as the southern gateway to the county.
Southern Gateway, meaning?
Meaning giving it a distinct identity through, like, quality architecture, better street design, making it feel like a specific welcoming place when you enter the county from the south.
Okay. The plan uses this term transect zones. Sounds kind of academic. Can you break that down? What are they and why do they matter here?
Yeah, it sounds technical, but the concept is pretty straightforward. Think of it as a scale, from totally natural rural areas to dense urban centers. The plan uses T-zones, T1 to T4, to sort of code different areas for their intended character.
So T1 is like natural and T4 is more urban.
You got it. T1 is the least intense, maybe preserved open space. T4 is the most intense, could be taller buildings, real mix of uses, shops on the ground floor, apartments above, that kind of thing.
And why use these zones?
It gives a framework for future development. It helps ensure that new buildings and activities fit the desired character of that specific spot and support the overall goal of making Triangle more walkable and mixed use. They also look at walk sheds, like how far can you comfortably walk from a transit stop, maybe a quarter mile or a half mile. That helps decide the density and uses within walking distance.
Okay, so how does the plan propose applying these T-zones across Triangle? Where do they envision the denser T4 versus the less dense T1 or T2?
They've mapped it out. For instance, west of Route 1, north of Joplin Road, they're aiming for a higher density residential T4 zone, with commerce clustered near that Joplin intersection. The idea is that this area can really leverage planned transit improvements, like bus rapid transit and shuttles to the VRE train stations.
Making it transit-oriented.
Right. Then a T3 zone, which allows a mix of commercial, office, maybe some residential, is proposed along the east side of Route 1, Fuller Heights Road, and north of Quantico Gateway Drive.
A bit less dense than T4, but still mixed.
Exactly. Then T2, which is lower density residential, more suburban in feel, is suggested for areas like Quantico Gateway Drive, parts of Moyers Road, Old Triangle Road, keeping that character.
Okay.
And finally, T1, the least intense or preserved natural areas, that's planned for the edges near I-95, along the Little Creek Corridor and around Fuller Heights Park.
That helps visualize the different intensities. Now, the plan also has specific long-range land use designations, right? How do those relate to the transects?
They work together. The transects set the general character and intensity, and the land use designations get more specific about what kind of uses. So within a T3 or T4 zone, you might have areas designated OMU, office mixed use,
And that's aimed at.
primarily defense contractors and related businesses,
Yeah.
especially targeted for that Quantico Gateway Drive area.
Hmm.
Then there's CMU, community mixed use, maybe near Dumfries, envisioning a really walkable human-scale place with lots of different uses packed in. VMU, village mixed use, is for areas with houses mixed right in with neighborhood shops on smaller lots, maybe a more traditional street grid. NMU, neighborhood mixed use, focuses on putting local retail and services within existing neighborhoods, along with varied housing.
And SN?
SN is suburban neighborhood areas that will mostly stay single-family residential, plus designations for public land, active parks, POSA, and passive parks.
So the land use names give more flavor within the transect's intensity level.
Exactly, it's a layered approach. Though, it's worth noting the actual zoning code might need updates later to fully match these long-range plans.
Right, planning versus zoning code. Makes sense. The plan also mentions activity density. What is that measuring, and what's the goal for Triangle?
Activity density. It's a metric the county uses mainly for transportation planning. You basically add up the number of jobs and the number of people living in an area and divide by the acres.
So jobs plus people per acre, a measure of concentration.
Yep. How much activity is packed into a place. The target range for Triangle, based on state guidelines, puts it in the category of a large town or suburban center. That translates to aiming for somewhere between P2 and P4 activity units per acre.
And why that range?
It reflects both what's already there and the growth they expect based on the plan. It helps ensure that as Triangle develops, the transportation system, roads, sidewalks, transit, is planned to handle that level of activity effectively.
Got it. Okay, vision, principles, land use framework. Check. Now, how do we actually get there? What are the concrete strategies, starting with mobility, which we know is a challenge?
Right. The big strategy for mobility is creating a true multimodal network. One that works well for cars, yes, but also for walking, biking, and transit. A key tool for this is the complete streets concept.
Complete streets, meaning?
It means designing major roads like Fuller Heights, Route 1, Joplin, Old Triangle Road to be safe and accessible for everyone, not just drivers. Think wider sidewalks, bike lanes, safe crossings, good bus stops, landscaping.
So not just moving cars fast.
Exactly. The plan stresses improving pedestrian and bike facilities generally, fixing those dangerous Route 1 crossings, and better connecting to transit like the planned BRT and the existing VRE. They also propose building out a network of shared use paths and trails.
To connect neighborhoods.
Yeah, connecting neighborhoods to each other, to schools, to parks, making those shorter trips possible without needing a car.
Okay, that sounds like a big shift. What about the green infrastructure? How does the plan approach preserving nature while developing?
It's about both protecting what's there and adding more. So preserving sensitive areas like the RPAs along Little Creek is a priority. But they also want to actively create more green spaces, parks, plazas, better streetscapes with more trees.
Making it greener overall.
Yes. And a really interesting goal is daylighting Little Creek, where feasible.
Daylighting, like uncovering it.
Exactly. If parts of it are currently running through pipes underground, the idea is to bring it back to the surface, restore it as a natural stream, make it an amenity. The plan even have a green infrastructure toolkit.
A tool?
Yeah, with specific techniques developers can use. Preserving open space, using porous pavement so rain soaks in, building bioretention areas like rain gardens, vegetated swales, infiltration basins, practical ways to manage stormwater and add green elements.
That sounds very proactive. And cultural resources, how do they protect the history amidst all this change?
The focus is on identifying sites through surveys, preserving known resources like that Amadon-Lunsford Cemetery, documenting findings, and importantly, interpreting the history.
Interpretation, like signs and exhibits.
Yeah, using markers, maybe small exhibits, even technology to tell Triangle's story to residents and visitors, and making sure new development considers the historical context. They also want to connect Triangle's story to nearby places like the Iwo Jima Memorial and Prince William Forest Park. Weave it all together.
Okay. And the engine for a lot of this, economic development, what's the strategy to bring in jobs and businesses?
It's pretty targeted. They want to leverage that Potomac Defense Corridor idea, attracting industries related to Quantico and federal work. Big focus there.
capitalizing on the location.
Absolutely. Also fostering those mixed-use areas we talked about, bringing in retail and services that residents currently lack, like maybe that grocery store. Good IT infrastructure is also flagged as essential.
Where are they targeting this development?
Key areas mentioned are Fuller Heights Road east of Route 1 and the Quantico Gateway Drive corridor. Interestingly, they specifically advise against building office space just on speculation, given the current high vacancy rates.
Smart. Focus on real demand.
Right. And there's a noted demand for more family-oriented retail. To make it happen, they'll use tools like the Hub Zone, the redevelopment overlays, county incentives, strategic rezoning, and public-private partnerships.
Using all the levers available. Lastly, level of service. What does that cover in the plan?
It's mainly about ensuring adequate infrastructure and community facilities keep pace with growth. It mentions creating linear parks or greenways along Little Creek and the planned Quantico Greenway.
More green connections.
Yes. And it specifically highlights a high need for more neighborhood parks and community parks, too. Quality matters as much as quantity. They also mention using proffer funds from new development to help pay for park improvements.
Making growth contribute to amenities. Okay, so wrapping this all up. If someone listening just wants the absolute key takeaways from this Triangle Small Area Plan deep dive, what are they?
I'd say the core message is, Triangle is this historically rich but currently mostly residential area, and it's really poised for a major shift. The plan sees its location near Quantico as a huge plus. It's aiming to transform it into a much more dynamic, mixed-use place. The big themes are better connectivity for everyone, walking, biking, transit driving, prioritizing green space and nature, honoring its history, and driving targeted economic growth for more local jobs and services.
Yeah, and for me, the real aha moment here is that clear intentional shift. It's not just accepting Triangle as a place people drive through on Route 1. The plan is actively trying to shape it into a real destination, a place with its own identity, its own character, offering diverse opportunities for living, working, and recreation right there.
Exactly. It's about placemaking. Creating somewhere people want to be, not just pass by. It's a fundamental shift in perspective for the area.
So that leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Think about how this kind of really detailed long-range planning doesn't just change buildings and roads. It reshapes the social life, the economic pulse of a community.
It has deep impacts.
And it makes you wonder what other areas that we might just see as pass-through places could have similar hidden potential. What could happen if they got this kind of comprehensive rethinking? It really highlights how connected everything is: history, environment, infrastructure, economy, community. It's all tied together.